At Thursday's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Senator Amy Klobuchar voiced her support for the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act. She noted that as the daughter of a journalist, she believes it is, quote, really important that we maintain our news organizations. The Minnesota senator noted that the bill has the support of Republicans, such as Senators Kennedy, Collins, Thune, Lummis, and Cassidy. Klobuchar said that the bipartisan bill, quote, sets up a framework for joint negotiations between news outlets and the digital platforms.
Of how the amendment process goes.
Thank you, Senator Grassley. I'll recognize Senator Klobuchar first, then Senator Kennedy. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Chair Durbin, and thank you and Senator Grassley for your support for this bill. I want to thank Senator Kennedy. We've worked on this bill for months and months and months and have been able to make some changes that he's requested. And we're very excited about the bipartisan group of co-sponsors. You've mentioned the ones on the committee, Senator Durbin, but we also have Senator Thune as a co-sponsor of the bill, as well as Senator Lummis, Collins, and Cassidy, as well as many others on the Democratic side that are interested in supporting the bill. So I look at this issue as a First Amendment issue. I'm the daughter of a newspaperman, you all know that, and it is really important that we maintain our news organizations. And I was thinking about this when I woke up this morning and read the tragic story of a Las Vegas investigative reporter named Jeff Gehrman, who was stabbed to death. The number one suspect is a politician that he was covering, doing investigative reporting, who just lost his primary in the Democratic primary, and he's now in custody. And it just gives you a jarring example of the kind of work that goes on at the local level, that it isn't all a federal game. It isn't all big news organizations that are looking into what's going on in everything from city councils to state legislatures to what the crop reports are, to what the flood is that's coming in, to even covering the high school football game. We don't want to lose that, not only because it's important to look at what's going on in our local communities, but also because we don't want to lose that fabric that we get at the local level. The coverage matters, and it strengthens our democracy, not only by bringing people together, but also the accountability that's part of it. This kind of local reporting is at risk because the market is being distorted in a way that undermines the ability of local news to receive some of the profit. As you point out, well, Senator Durbin, it's not the only issue, but in receiving some of the profit generated by the content that they are producing. As a result, as noted, local news is facing a crisis in the U.S. Since 2005, 2,200 local newspapers across America have closed. Local news outlets aren't closing or reducing their coverage because of a lack of talent or passion for their work. It's a lack of revenue. Ad revenue for U.S. newspapers plummeted from over $37 billion in 2008 to less than $9 billion in 2020. A recent study by Northwestern University predicted that 1/3 of U.S. newspapers that existed roughly 2 decades ago will be gone by 2025. At the same time, Google and Meta, aka Facebook, became digital advertising titans, raking in billions in ad dollars while taking news content, feeding it to their users, and not offering fair compensation to the news organizations and the reporters that actually do the reporting. Google recently reported $61 billion in advertising revenue in a single 3-month period, a 33% jump from the same period the prior year, which is the fourth quarter of 2021. Their dominance over the news means less money for local news outlets and fewer journalists to do the in-depth local reporting. Last February on our subcommittee, we had a hearing on this issue and heard from small newspapers and radio stations who testified about the challenges that their outlets are facing. They testified that they can't even get the platforms to come to the table to negotiate on price, and that they have been told that they will be punished if they use any other advertising tool. That is why Senator Kennedy and I who believe in negotiation and competition and fair markets, introduced the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act. The bill will help, as noted by Senator Durbin and Grassley, it will help level the playing field and give local news outlets the ability to band together to negotiate for fair compensation with mega titan companies, biggest companies the world has ever known, like Google and Facebook, so that they can continue to invest in the kind of quality reporting that keeps us all informed. As you all know, this is not just a problem in the U.S., but other countries as well. At least one country, Australia, took similar steps, different structure, different laws, to bring Google and Facebook to the negotiating table. It is working. I will note that Google and Facebook did not go under in the land down under. The internet did not break. They are still making money, big money. At the same time, news organizations are getting a fair share of ad revenue. This is why our bill sets up a framework for joint negotiations between news outlets and the digital platforms. It provides a narrow safe harbor under the law for newspapers or news broadcasters to work together to negotiate for compensation for their original content. The bill includes an obligation enforceable in court for the platforms to negotiate in good faith and make reasonable offers. And for news publisher, the bill includes the right to invoke binding final offer arbitration if the negotiations fail to produce an agreement after 180 days. The bill is focused on news publishers that serve a primarily U.S. audience, employ journalists, update their content at least weekly. It's also focused on small and medium news organizations. It excludes news organizations owned by foreign governments and publications with more than 1,500 full-time employees, which would include the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. They are excluded, as well as the major national television networks. This framework will help to ensure that small and local news publishers and broadcasters will be treated fairly in the marketplace, which in turn will help sustain the work of local journalists. That is why it has the support of thousands of local papers from around the country, the News Media Alliance, the National Association of Broadcasters, National Newspaper Association, and the Authors Guild, a national nonprofit association of more than 12,000 professional writers, including over 3,000 journalists. We have to take action to allow these news organizations to get fair compensation. I wish it wasn't like this. I wish that we could have done something about the monopoly situation that we're in. But this is what we're in right now, and we must respond. I'll end by saying last week, Senator Portman and I traveled to Ukraine. We met with President Zelensky for over an hour, and I thought about, as he did as well, how the people of their country are putting their very lives on the line for democracy. And what we're trying to do here, in the best way that we could find possible on a bipartisan basis, was to salvage a part of our democracy, which is the First Amendment, to make sure that we continue to have local news reporting in all of our communities. With that, I hope that Senator Kennedy could say a few words.
I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to acknowledge the return of the legendary, undaunted senior senator from the state of Vermont, former chairman of the committee. Welcome back, Pat Leahy.
Thank you. I can't tell you how good it feels to be back.
Glad to have you. Senator Kennedy.